Alderneys Key FM.
Good morning to our President, William Tate. Good morning, William.
Good morning, Dougal.
How are we, firstly?
Any day with Dusty Springfield in it for me
That's good, isn't it?
is a great day. What a fantastic voice.
Indeed.
And we did our walk this morning without getting wet. I had my shorts on for the first time, so win-win all round.
Yeah, it was nice at 5:30 this morning as well. No rain, but it's rain now. I think that's because Mags has threatened to put her washing out. But
I resemble that remark.
there you are.
Well, we'll send a volunteer round to do it for us.
Yeah. As long as it's not me. Right, so I'll let you make a start.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Firstly, it's a thank you to James Dent for taking the baton yesterday morning and explaining to you exactly how the CCA works. As a topic itself, it's fairly detailed, and I think he gave you a very full description of the role of the CCA and his own role in it. So that's sort of put some flesh on the bones of that. And so thank you to him for that. And now we go back to how we always start these, which is how things are in Guernsey. Well, it was positive on Monday when I last spoke to you, and I have to say that trend remains the same. So the position yesterday remains that there have been 247 cases of COVID-19 in Guernsey, still none in Alderney, so that's no change in the number of cases since I spoke to you on Monday, and that is a massive step forward. So we can really see now that the strategy that Dr. Brink has put in place is really working, and hopefully this trend will continue. So this is a case of no news is good news around that. But of course, as I keep saying, in all of this, we can't forget that 13 people have sadly lost their lives, and another 4 who have lost their lives with coronavirus playing some part. So although we can be encouraged, our hearts still go out to the families who will be struggling to come to terms with the impact that this has had on their families and their friends. Now, another 20 people have now recovered from the virus, making a total of 191. And in the media conference yesterday, Dr. Brink was very encouraged by the number of people who are recovering from the virus compared to the number of people who actively have it. So she felt that was a really positive step. She felt that was great news, and I think you can almost see her levels of confidence improving each time she comes on and gives her summary to us all in the bailiwick. So again, demonstrating that her approach to this was the right one. So that's the summary. We're in a positive direction, no new infections, no new deaths. So suddenly we can start to see light at the end of the tunnel. Now, I think what for me was the most important thing that came out of yesterday's media briefing was that Deputy Soulsby told us that next week they will publish the exit strategy from lockdown. Now, I'm sure that has to a very large extent been influenced by the medical situation and the fact that it appears that the spread of the virus has now been controlled. So we will all very anxiously wait to hear what steps might be put in place and when to enable life to start working towards the new normal. So you'll remember, I think it was last week or the week before, that this was first mentioned when phase 2 was put into place. And that's the phase which has allowed our lone workers and building workers to get back to work and start generating some economic activity. And we know again from the chief executive yesterday that in Guernsey that there have been 1,600 applications, or 1,600 notifications, I should say, of people who are returning to work. So when you look at that figure, that really is encouraging. And again, it's that small step in the right direction, and those were the matters which were referred to in phase 2. So next week, I hope that we will be given a little bit more detail about what the next stage 3, might look like, and we can then all assess how that might affect how we live our daily lives. And then, of course, there is also phase 4, the details of which will be made available, but I think we all really need to focus at the moment around phase 3, which will be the next step forward back to generating more economic activity, perhaps, and with people perhaps being able to move round without the same amount of restrictions. But again, we have to wait and see. But again, it's a very positive step, and something which I suspect is a consequence of the medical approach. So yesterday, Heidi Soulsby also mentioned that the directions around removals were going to change. So now anybody who wants to move house can, subject to some very strict conditions, do so. So there is guidance now for removal businesses which sets out how they can carry out their duties safely. And again, as always, that can be accessed on the gov.gg/coronavirus website. So I'm not going to list all those details because I suspect it will have limited impact on us in the short term. So that was the news, I think, from the conference yesterday. Now, today in Guernsey sees the debate around the proposal by Policy and Resources that they should be authorised to borrow up to £500 million in order to finance day-to-day spending and also to look at how that would be impacted by the recovery plan. So I think that will be an interesting debate. There have been a number of amendments from different deputies, so there will be a number of different versions of this to be debated. But in the end, I'm confident that the states of deliberation will come up with a version of the proposition which enables them to move the economy forward and also to bring to the states of deliberation the economic recovery plan upon which this request for financing is based. So that should come forward in the fullness of time, but I think it's entirely appropriate that there is consideration now of the proposals put forward, and as I say, I'm confident that they will come to the right decision. And of course, that has massive implications for us, but as you know, we have two voices in that debate, so our position will be made quite clear. So again, we are putting Alderney's case into the bigger discussion about how we, as a bailiwick, come together and meet these challenges. And I think that the events of the last few months have really demonstrated how important it is that we have a close, working, supportive relationship within the bailiwick of Guernsey. And never were a truer word said that we are all truly in this together. So those are all the sort of political and issues around the lockdown, and I think it's important that we also don't forget what's happening in the background to this crisis, because life goes on in a very different way, but there are some people whose lives have changed in terms of the additional responsibilities which they have now been given. So our staff in the emergency services came out almost 2 weeks ago and gave us a very loud and visible sign of their thanks to us as a community for supporting them, for not putting them in a position where their health might be challenged because of our bad behaviour. So this, again, it's a group effort, and we can all clap each other. But we've also had some fantastic examples on Facebook dancing from the emergency services, the Island Medical Centre, Boardsman's Pharmacy, and others. So it's interesting in a way because we're talking about highly professional people who are working tirelessly to protect us, but we've got to remember that they are human beings who have emotions, who feel pressure, and also need a mechanism for perhaps on occasions releasing that pressure. So how fantastic it has been to see all our emergency services and everybody in those organisations making, I'm not going to say fools of themselves because they didn't, but making it very clear that they are also able to put forward a really positive contribution. And again, this all results really from Dougal, because had he not had the idea of the 9 o'clock dance, then it wouldn't have taken off. The challenges wouldn't have been given to different people. So all in all, I think even in these difficult times, we can all take real comfort from the fact that people are prepared to pitch in and do what's necessary. And that's over and above all the massive responsibilities they have to keep us safe. And a few weeks ago, the people of the Minio Memorial Hospital turned their talents to producing a video which had a serious purpose and an informative purpose, because it was sharing with the community how they had geared up to handle any patients admitted with COVID-19. And again, you just have to be impressed at the level of professionalism and thought that has gone into their forward planning. But again, it's a very human way of sharing that with us as a community. And in that vein, yesterday, the staff at the Connaught Care Home have produced an incredible video about their work and preparations. And it also has a little added humour to go with it, together with some music. So again, care homes are the central focus at the moment of the problems we face. And you only have to look on the television in the UK to see the threat that is posed. So for our care home to be able to produce this video, which simply puts all our minds at rest, so we know that Liz and all her team have put in place the right processes, the right procedures, and anybody who has a member of their family, whether they live here or whether they live in the UK, can rest assured and can sleep easier in their bed at night when they know that this level of professionalism once again has shone through all the efforts which have been taken on our behalf. So I think today it's probably a good time to just pause and to think again of all those people who put themselves in harm's way to protect us. And it's a massive group of people, and it's not just the obvious frontline staff. It is everybody who has to interact with us as a community in order to keep our island functioning, who are putting us in a position whereby we are safe. So there's a massive, as I said before, there is a massive responsibility. And I think that we will all look at each other in very different ways in the months and years to come. So I think, again, if you see one of our frontline workers, just say thank you. It means so much. So we hope that these videos are going to go onto the state's Facebook page, and I'm sure the Connaught one's already on their Facebook page. But, please watch it. Please understand the spirit in which it was made, and please just recognise that these are more examples of a community coming together, working together to protect each other. So now let me go to the bit of housekeeping that I've got to tell you about now. The VE Day celebrations, which is a week on Friday. I've mentioned before that we had grand plans for an island-wide street party at the Island Hall, which I have to say would have been very spectacular. However, due to the situation we find ourselves in, we've had to cancel the street party. We obviously can't get together as groups. So Barbara Benfield and I thought, well, what's the best way we can do this? Because we want to make it clear that we share in the celebrations that are taking place in the UK. And we thought, well, let's try and find an Alderney way of doing it. So because this whole radio station link has been such a fantastic resource for us over the last few months, we've decided that we will do a live radio broadcast next Friday at 10 a.m. And what we will do is to incorporate into that all the, if you like, formal parts of the celebration, which we would have coincided with the UK, but we would do them all in a very truncated way. So we can't do it over the course of a whole day. So we're squeezing it all into an hour, we think. But all the things which will be celebrated in the UK will also be done here. But in addition to that, we have made it a very Alderney-focused presentation. So there will be contributions from members of our community, and when you put all that together, if it works, then I think it's just something else that we can look at and say, we've responded to that challenge, we've recognised it, and we have done our bit to celebrate the sacrifices of those who came before us. So it's not ideal in that we'd have liked it to have been outside, we'd have liked to have all been able to share that space at the Island Hall, but I think it's probably going to be an extremely good alternative. So please, as many people as possible, join in and listen to what I'm confident is going to be a fantastic occasion. Next thing is the Helping Hand Appeal. That's out now, all fully functional. I have to say, when I came up with this idea, I didn't realise quite how much background work is required in 2020 in order to do something like this. But I've had a massive amount of help and support, doing all the really difficult, detailed stuff to make sure that we have the right governance issues, we have the right process issues, we've complied with data protection. All of these things never entered my head when I thought, well, this just would be a good way of being able to respond. So it's a massive thank you to me for all of the people that have been involved in this. And the people who will be making the decision about the Helping Hand applications will be Gabrielle, my wife, Neil Hunter and Barbara Benfield. So I think we've got a pretty good cross-section there. So anybody who wants and feels that they need a helping hand at the moment because they're finding things really, really tight, we're here. So if you contact 82001, 82001, then you can get an application form sent to you, or you can download it online. You simply complete that form, submit it, and fingers crossed we'll be able to respond quickly. So it's another one of these funds where we hope it won't be necessary, because that means people are managing, but we have to make provision and make sure we support those people who need our support. And I've made reference before to our more senior citizens, and they are a real focus of this. But it's not just them; it's young people as well. You know, this is cut across all ages, all demographics. So it's anybody who feels they just need a little bit of support to help them through, the same way as we do with the volunteers. Please contact us, and we will make sure that you receive that level of support. Shopping, interestingly, because as we know, things changed yesterday or the day before, or month, whenever, at Jean's stores. So the boss and I went out for the first time shopping for, what is it now, 5 or 6 weeks. And the thing that really struck me was how positive everybody was. You know, we were all standing out, queuing to go into Jean's, but there was a real spirit. And everybody was just full of energy and full of life. And we went into the shop, we did our shopping, we came out, and it was just a really uplifting experience. And I suppose being stuck away, it's hard to get a real sense of where the community is in terms of their energy levels and their ability to cope. And this was really, really good for me to be able to see that everything we've done has been really important. And in all of this, who knew 3 months ago we'd be standing outside Jean's stores waiting to go in and shop? I mean, it's surreal. But what we've done is we've adapted to it, and we've adapted really, really well. And so, yeah, I mean, it was a great experience, and I'm sure that everybody feels the same way. So, you know, it's thanks to the frontline people in the retail outlets, because they're putting us first, and they're helping us through all of this. But it's that sort of spirit which I'm sure people have felt in other crises over the years, but it's certainly not something that in my lifetime I've ever experienced. So, again, you know, I keep coming back to this. These are really difficult times, but there are so many positive things which have come out of this. And, you know, for me, it's the way in which we're all connected. And sometimes we forget that. And sometimes that we forget that what we do to other people affects a much wider group of people. So, yeah, and also the number of things we've taken for granted that we suddenly have to think, that's not as easy as it was. So I do think that out of this, we will have come to a new way of looking at the world, and it'll be a new way of interacting with the world. But I think if we can all be a bit kinder to ourselves, kinder to each other, and realize that as a world, we are all in this together. And so this has been a global challenge and something from which we can look back and say, however difficult it was, we've actually been able to come through this, and we've come through this stronger. I think with that little sermonette, oh yes, it's just been pointed out to me by the boss, she's very fair, that we also nipped into Le Coq. Again, fantastic experience there. People were same sort of positive attitude, same sort of experience. So all in all, it was a good experience yesterday. So I'm looking now, Dougal, and I'm thinking that's probably everything for this morning.
Lovely, William. Thank you. Well, a couple of things while we're on the subject. Firstly, thank you for mentioning about, I think it's become a dance craze. As much as I'd love to take the credit for it, it was Nick West's inspiration. She started it off. I'm afraid I'm just a mouthpiece. But it has grown from that. And it's been absolutely incredible. And the people getting involved, and it just shows, even through these difficult times, that people are still ready to not let it rule their life, I think is the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I'm delighted that I've smashed the 1,500 barrier.
Hey!
So, I think I'm going to take some catching now, to be honest. But there's some fantastic efforts out there, and I'm sure there's better to come.
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
It is. And I think it's fantastic that everybody's bought into it, and it just brings a smile to all our faces, and that's what it's all about, and that's why we do it.
It certainly does. Now, another thing, I've just received this email, and it's just actually come through, so I would like to read it out. It says, "Good morning, Dougal and Mags. We would like to say how lucky we all are to have William Tate and his team looking after us at this frightening time that we are all going through. William is definitely a people's president. He has made us feel safe. Also, Gavin St Pierre and his team, again for making us feel safe. They are all doing an amazing jobs. We could not be in better hands, so a big thank you to them all. And also, Doug, a big thank you to you and your team for all the updates and entertainment. And I'd like to take this opportunity once again, to thank the team, because they've all been fantastic. They've been coming in when they actually haven't had to. So I really do need to thank them for that as well. And that is from Rob and June Hammond. So I thought you might perhaps like to hear that.
Well, it makes it all worthwhile.
It does, and it shows what a community we actually are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lost for words, which is very unusual for me.
Well, that's all right, because I have more than enough words for both of us.
Well, and you know what? It does. It makes all the hard work and all the sacrifices. It just, and as I keep saying, we are so blessed, both here and in Guernsey, to have the right people in the right place at the right time.
Yes, I totally agree with you.
Somebody somewhere is looking after us.
Somebody is looking after us, and we hope that they keep doing it.
Okay, so, now, Duke, on Friday, I've got to dial in to a presentation by Bethan Haynes, who is the treasurer of the State of Guernsey, about the recovery plan and the way forward. So I shall have to put in a sickie for Friday morning, I'm afraid. But if anything does break, I mean, we're sort of keeping our fingers crossed now that we're going to be in some fairly smooth water. But if anything changes, you and I can make the arrangements and we'll get it out there. So I think that unless anything changes, I'll talk to you again after the weekend.
That's fine, and the good thing is about the radio, as you say, we can adapt, so we can be very quick whenever we need to be.
Yeah, and I think next week could be busy, so
right, okay.
Well prepared for that. So again, thank you to everybody out there. Take good care.
Yep, and keep safe.
Thank you.
Okay, William, thank you. Bye for now. Bye.
Alderney's Key FM.